And then all of a sudden, me and Pam were just like, wait, are we making this? Did we get a green light? Like, what's happening? So I kind of came at Pam, just, this is the team, this will be perfect, this is the tone. She was a little bit like, okay.
It's nominated for an Oscar.
Yes. Is there anyone you want to meet? And I was like, yeah, I want to meet Guillermo del Toro. He's like, come on, he's here, come on. Pam was talking about how much we could go back and stuff. And we were like, not at all. You cannot go back. We're drawing every frame. It took me a long time to realize that animation is a really beautiful, amazing thing, and that you can make anything in animation. So my name is Sara Gunnarsdóttir, and I'm an Icelandic animation artist and a director. I have a BFA degree in Fine Arts from the Icelandic Academy of the Arts, and I have a master's degree in experimental animation from California Institute of the Arts. And I've been working as an independent animator and animation director for the past 10 years.
Go to bed.
Okay.
And whatever you're watching, cut it out.
It's an art film.
Yeah.
Left and right, left ear, right ear. Hey, how's it going?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Very good. How's your morning going?
I'm still a little jet lagged from LA, so I just took a tiny nap. I just woke up.
Jet lagged, very busy. Thanks for this.
Of course.
What did you study, at college?
Experimental animation.
Experimental animation. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Did you have a passion to get into that before university, college, or?
Yeah, I was taking, I took a bachelor degree in fine art here in Iceland, and felt like I didn't really fit in there. I just wanted to make pretty drawings, and I was good at drawing. But I felt like the art school was very much about concept art and stuff that I just wasn't into. And then kind of by chance, I started working in the film industry in Iceland after I graduated, in costumes and props and script supervisor. I was just like a crew member, and I really loved it. And I've always been like a little bit of a film nerd, but it took me a long time to realize that animation is a really beautiful, amazing thing, and that you can make anything in animation. And I was in my 20s when I realized this.
Working with Pamela Ribon, and we know her for writing and producing projects like Moana and big movies like Ralph Breaks the Internet. How did that come about for you, Sara? That's pretty incredible.
So yeah, we didn't know each other before, and she published a book of her memoir that came out in 2014 called Notes to Boys and Other Things You Shouldn't Share in Public. And I think FX Network was interested in working with her within their little show called Cake. So Pam developed it and wrote the scripts, and it wasn't until they were kind of finished that I was brought in. I guess FX had a list of some independent animators that they thought were capable of building their own teams. I'm very proud that I was on that list.
Brilliant.
And our producer, Jeanette Janine, I think actually also, she's been working with FX quite a bit, and she recommended me. So yeah, so I was so honored that Pam also trusted me with this, because it's also so personal,
And it's nominated for an Oscar. Which
yes.
Have you got your speech prepared? What was that like, finding out it's nominated?
So it's been such a weird, crazy ride, because just from the beginning that FX first talked to me, and I made a couple of drawings and a folder with images, and I was like, oh, I would love to do this. Here's some stuff. And then I didn't hear from them for 2 months, and I was like, okay, somebody else got that job. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, after 2 months, I hear from them again, and they're like, oh, we want to do it. We need you to make a budget. And then all of a sudden, me and Pam were just like, wait, are we making this? Did we get a green light? Like, what's happening? And it was so lovely also because FX just gave us freedom. Like, nobody was saying no to us, or like, we were in charge, and it felt so good. We were very happy with this and proud of it. And we were a little bit sad that it was going to be a part of Cake where it was going to be cut up, because we really loved it as one piece. So we really started thinking about a festival run where we could showcase it as a one piece. And then in the summer, it became clear, FX said, we don't actually have any plans to air this as it stands. So then we were just like, oh, we have a failed pilot on our hands. At a similar time, Benoit Chivard, who is a PR person who specializes in helping independent artists get a chance to go to the Oscars. He reached out to us and said, I think we can do this. I think you can do this. And we were like, really? Really? We've been campaigning since September for the Oscars. And then it's been so wild to just see it gain momentum more and more and more. And we were like, if we get on the shortlist, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then we got on the shortlist, and then we got nominated.
Up now, the nominees for Best Animated Short Film. My Year of Dicks.
It's just crazy.
It's incredible. So you get the green light, you're on board, you're directing and obviously working with the animation team, your animation team. What was it like to sort of put that together?
It was actually so much fun because so I had a few people like under my umbrella. And when I was reading the scripts and this play with Chandra, I was like, oh, she will be perfect. He will be perfect for this. And so I kind of came at Pam just running at her. And I was just like, this is the team. This will be perfect. This is the tone. This is how it's going to be. And she was just a little bit like, okay. And yes, I asked these wonderful, amazing animation artists to work with me. And they all say yes to me, which I'm so happy with.
You guys, I am having the best day.
And yes, I remember also in the beginning, before we brought everyone on, of course, we had to cast the thing and record the actors. And we were gearing up for that. And Pamela, coming from Disney, was just like, what do you mean? What do you mean we're going to record the we haven't started working? And I was just like, yeah, but we need voice, like, what comes first, you know? And I was like, Pam, you have to we're going to make what you wrote. Just trust what you wrote. And she was just like, that has never been said to me.
Oh man.
Because it's just like within the bigger projects, you're just like, you have 400 people having notes and you're just working on it. You're just redoing and working until almost the end. But this was like, and that's also maybe different in a 3D pipeline where it's easier to go in and change things. And I remember me and Jeanette once almost having a heart attack when Pam was talking about how much we could go back and stuff. And we're like, not at all. You cannot go back. We're drawing every frame. Like once this is decided, this is over.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. You guys were sitting on Zoom doing acting and screen recording and, all the behind the scenes that we've been watching on this project. It's just so brilliant and, really entertaining. And it was really great to see because obviously in a pretty male-dominated industry, it reminds me of, have you seen Turning Red? Where it's a full female like head of productions involved, the directors, the head of departments, and they all did it fully on Zoom and video calls, of course, because of pandemic.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's an incredible behind the scenes to watch.
I have to check it out.
Yeah, and what was it like working in that way, remotely and being on video calls rather than working with people directly in the same room? It looked a lot of fun.
I think it fitted me very well because it's what I've been doing before COVID. I was just always in my living room. So I was just kind of continuing doing what I was used to, just on a slightly bigger scale.
Yeah.
And I was actually really happy to have that safety I could just always walk away from the computer. I was just in my house. And because I was a little bit intimidated about taking this on, you don't want to let anyone down.
Sure.
So I was really happy that my first experience doing this was in the same way that I'm just used to working. Almost all of the animators I am working with, that's also just their way of, like, that's how they've been doing it for years too. So
oh, great.
We were in good practice.
Brilliant. That's great. It was really funny to see you directing, say, Pam over Zoom and kind of like finding like an angle.
To poke it for real.
No. Am I in the right angle?
Oh, sometimes you would be like on Zoom like this, or sometimes I would just be here. I would just see her legs or something laying on the floor with the phone.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll send it to you anytime.
This is how we should always do it. It's way more fun.
So in the beginning, we didn't plan on asking the actors for all these references.
Oh, okay.
And we actually didn't do it for the first chapter we did, which was the horror show. And if you know that, if you like, you can see that that's the chapter that's kind of the most wonkiest one.
Okay.
And at that point, I was asking the animators to shoot their own references. And at the end of that chapter, the animators were like, Sara, I think it would be easier if we have the same person do references for the same character always.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I was like, yes, of course. And then we were just like, well, if we're really kind of shooting this stuff, why don't we just talk to the actors? So we asked for like 2 to 3 hours extra with them on Zoom. But then me and my husband would shoot all of that stuff where we were actually kissing and touching each other. And it was kind of awkward to be playing these teens who are 40 years old and like sending it to our friends and like, make us a little thinner.
Yeah. That's so cool. Out of interest, whose hand reference was it going down the trousers in the cinema scene?
Yeah, that's me and my husband.
Amazing. Just going back to like pre-production then, what about the decision and like the art style and everything like that? Was that solely from your sort of vision?
So yeah, because I was just like, okay, like I was showing them older projects from me and I was just like, this is how I do things. Can we just do it like this? And I got a lot of help from my animation team because I was also just like, and we draw the characters like this, and I was just referencing the storyboards, and they were like, Sara, you have to draw them for us. You have to draw the characters, like the face angles and stuff, just so we have something to. I was like, oh yes, of course.
Oh, okay, like a rule, like a loose rule guide for the consistency.
Yeah, because I was just like, there's no real character design. It just looks like the actors. If it looks like the actor, if you could see the actor in it, I'm happy. And then I think for the backgrounds, I always had this idea of I wanted it to be somewhat realistic, but painterly.
Yeah.
And I got Isabel Aspen to do backgrounds. She did backgrounds for the first 2 chapters we worked on. And I basically said to her, I want it to be painterly, somewhat realistic, but otherwise just do your thing. And so she just set the tone. Then we got a different background painter for the sweet one. And I found a person, CJ Walker, and I allowed them to just kind of, I was like, this is how the other 2 chapters look like if you just have that as an undertone, but then they were also allowed to just kind of put their own little thing in it because that whole chapter is very colored by the anime. And then we got Simon Estrada, who is a very versatile artist working in animation, who did for me Ungros Penis and the sex talk backgrounds.
Okay.
And he just nailed it.
Nice. Did Pam ever do any skateboarding tricks live on the web?
I wish I could say yes, but no. She was just like, I wanted the ending of the first chapter to be like this huge victory. And she was just like, really, do we want to go this far? Like, I never actually knew how to ollie, and I was just like, yes, she is winning.
Who did the skateboarding?
Yeah, it was a mix of video reference online, and I jumped on my skateboard in front of the camera to land in front of the camera. And
oh, brilliant!
But then I stole someone online ollieing because I can't ollie like that.
In the skateboarding moments where they sort of fall off the skateboards, I'm thinking, surely they're not putting themselves through that pain.
Oh, like when he's falling off the railing?
Yeah, the rails.
Yeah. Yes, that's video online, yes.
Of course, yeah. What was the sort of pipeline for this project?
Yeah, all the animators were working in TV Paint.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this really beautiful pencil in there that one of the animators, Kevin Askew, had made himself. So he had a really pretty line.
Nice.
I did a little bit of animation in each chapter. Most of the animation I did is in the last chapter because then I didn't have to prepare the next chapter. And I actually did my animation on paper because that's just what I'm comfortable with. And to match it, I took away all the paper texture and I just kept the line. And then we added this tiny bit of paper texture over all the characters when we were compositing. And I also Kyle, who colored for us, he colored the whole thing by himself. I'm so impressed with him. And he colored in TV Paint as well.
As a director, did you look to any sort of kind of like coming of age movies like Lady Bird, Breakfast Club, Superbad, Stand By Me type, teenagers finding themselves?
Yes, and also Pam asked me to watch mid-90s before we started.
Mid-90s, amazing. Skateboarding, yes.
Yeah.
Of course,
and
I've missed that one.
This is the mood. I'm like, yes, this is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that. Any crazy Oscar stories while you were in LA? They
have this Oscar luncheon to, I think, get all the nominees a chance to kind of see each other and connect outside of the ceremony itself. Yeah, it was wild. It wasn't what I was expecting. Really? Like to go in there, and it was very much kind of this ballroom in a Beverly Hills hotel. It felt like a setting in a high school prom from an American movie. And so you were like in your head, you were like, wait, am I in American teen movie? Because I know all the faces here, but they don't know. Like this is just famous actors. Pam was really enjoying it. I kind of wish I had been her because she was just taking pictures with everybody and having the best time. And I was a little bit intimidated and scared about the whole thing.
Yeah, I can imagine it being quite an overwhelming experience, especially if you're new to that.
Yeah, I didn't quite know what to do with myself. And then Benoit, who's our PR person, who was like, is there anyone you want to meet? And I was like, yeah, I want to meet Guillermo del Toro. He's like, come on, he's here, come on.
Oh, amazing.
So I was like, yes, the only person I really wanted to see. So I got my photo. And he's just such a champion of animation and pushing animation into to be properly part of the film industry and not its own little thing.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely a pioneer for that. Absolutely. What was the first thing that you brought to life with animation? Taking you all the way back to when you first, was it 2D? Was it?
Probably like the first thing I made was I had gone to this Roskilde music festival in Denmark with my boyfriend and some friends of his. And they had been having a sketchbook circling around where they were drawing stuff in. And I took some of that drawings and made a video to a song by a Swedish American artist called Mapi. And then I also very early tried rotoscoping.
The whole rotoscope animation. What did you experiment further after that? Or did you find a love for that style? Or
I really liked the program because it was encouraging people to try to just approach animation in their own way. I took a class in the character animation department, which was just like animation 101, like how to animate and draw an animation. And I almost quit because I thought it was awful because it's very, very not creative.
Really?
And it's very like, this is exactly how you draw a character. This is how you move the character. And it like everybody's just doing exactly the same thing and they're putting in this mold. And so I was like, okay, this is not for me.
Well, that's sort of those boundaries. And I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, your background of, experimental, being like kind of loose and discovering things, it's kind of seems to fit you more than just being restricted to this is how you should do animation. And I think clearly it's just thrown up like, nah, that's not for me. Did you have any sort of reference or any inspiration? I might be completely wrong here. Joanna Quinn?
Oh, yeah, I know who she is.
Just that, if we're talking 2D, if we're talking character animation and kind of that funny, crude humour, that springs to my mind. But yeah, was there any sort of reference to her in this project?
We weren't specifically, I think, looking at her work for this. I think there's one film that I take a lot of inspiration from, just like always. And it's a film that blew my mind when I saw it. It's called Mind Game by Masaki Yuasa.
Okay.
But in that film, the animation is very loose and fluent. And so I think that was definitely something that I was showing people and the artists when we were start working on this. There's this moments where we can just see the actor. And in every chapter of Mayor Bix, I asked Pam that I could shoot very close on her eyes and that we get to see it through, because I was like, I have you here. You are the person.
Who do you look up to? Inspirations, artists, animators? Is there anybody that you...
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of Masaki Yuasa, like I was saying earlier. And I think him and Satoshi Kon are probably my favorite animation directors. Unfortunately, Satoshi Kon is no longer alive. And then I also really admire an artist called Alison Shilnick. Okay. And she is an amazing painter. And she does really this cool clay animation. She also does actually painted animation, but she does this thing with clay. And she kind of does the same thing with oil paint on canvas. And it's mesmerizing.
Any advice for, anybody sort of aspiring to be an animation director?
Be true to yourself. I think also what I realized going into the master's program is so expensive to go to school anywhere, and especially like I thought it was maybe just in the States, but it's actually expensive everywhere. And my advice would be heading in to have ideas that you already are burning up to do, like film ideas that you really want and need time to make, and not go into the program kind of clueless and then trying to figure out what you want to make once you're there, because it's such a valuable time.
Sure.
And it's impossible to I think the only way to really break into the industry is to have something to show. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's a great piece of advice. Absolutely. And what about when, what's been the most challenging part about you working in the industry from yourself over the years? Is there anything that's been really challenging that you can think of?
Yes. When I was still in school, I was in my late 20s, and I started having like carpal tunnel and problems with my arms, and I never really dealt with it properly. And then when I was making the animation for the Diary of a Teenage Girl, I got a tennis elbow.
Oh, really?
And it's really painful and it's really hard. And my body really had to break before I realized that you really have to take care of your body. You can't just be like this.
Sure. You know what? This is great, because this is something that comes up a lot when we talk to artists. So how did you overcome those sort of those issues with carpal tunnel? Was it I need to break or I need to do something differently? What was that like, overcoming that?
Well, like the tennis elbow thing, it was actually came up on both of my arms, which is kind of weird. And I couldn't stop because I was doing the Diary of a Teenage Girl and I was so into it, and I recognized this as the opportunity that it was. So I was just I went to physical therapy, and I worked with these braces on and tried acupuncture, like just tried everything. But in the end, it took years to totally go away. And then, you just have to give it time.
Yeah.
And through that process, I learned how to do stretches. You have to do stretches every day.
Yeah, that's a lot of people just think, I don't need to stretch when I'm starting to animate, but especially younger people coming in up from universities and getting into the industry, it has a big toll on you physically and mentally. What kind of advice do you give for that kind of work-life balance?
I don't know.
How do you manage it? Do you sort of sit down all day and work late and then break, or do you have intervals? How does it work for you?
I didn't have anything I just worked. When I was awake, I was just working. I was a little bit of obsessed. I was just obsessed with animation. Yeah. But then now I have a daughter and a family, so it's now the day needs to be really structured, so that's good.
Coming off the back of this then, I mean, we mentioned an Oscar speech. Have you prepared one, and what will happen, and what will it mean for you if you actually win? You guys win the award. Can you prepare for such thing?
If we win, so I'm nominated with Pamela Ribon.
Yes,
she's the writer of this duo. Yeah. So she's gonna have to take the lead of the speech, but I'm sure that we will think about it together.
Brilliant.
Because I was just like, Pam, I'm not going in there unprepared. There's like no way. I will faint. But yes, I think if we would win, I would just explode with pride. Yeah.
Just to wrap up on a question here. So, best piece of advice that you've ever been given from anybody, in whether it's life, professionally. I'm putting you completely on the spot here. Sorry,
the first animation job I had was with Marielle Heller on Dire of a Teenage Girl, and it was also her first time directing a film. Working with her and just watching her go through this taught me so much, because I just saw how generous she was with everybody she worked with. I saw her choose her people very, very carefully, and once you were part of her film, you owned part of that film, and that was yours. And she taught me a little bit how to approach a project and how to be a good director.
Brilliant. Is that something that you was kind of had in mind when you're working with your team and directing such a project? I imagine that.
Absolutely. Yeah. To be just like to be not be selfish on it and be like, I want you to be on this project because you're very talented, and I don't always know better than you, and I want you to bring all your magic and not ruin your magic by telling you every little thing that you're supposed to do. You know, it's such a collaboration, and I really think that's the best way to make a movie.
Well, clearly it's worked an absolute treat on this one, Sara. And it's so exciting. And I just want to say again, I've said it a few times, but I really appreciate your time to speak with us today. And
thank you. It's been so much fun.
Oh, great. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. All the best with the Oscars. And I'm sure you're going to go on to do more incredible things. And we wish you and your team all the best. What are you doing this evening?
I think it's my husband's birthday tomorrow. And I think we're going to order pizza and watch a movie or try to have some fun tonight.
Oh, nice. That's good. Well deserved. Brilliant, Sara. And we'll be in touch very soon.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
You too, and you too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Sara. Bye.